debates, constant elevation.
2, 1. What is up, everybody? You are listening, you are watching to the Constant Elevation Podcast. I am your host, as always, Gabe Rock. Hope you guys are doing well in this June. Not fun fact, I'm not doing well. By that, I mean, like, my body is, I've sustained 2 injuries within the last week that are just ridiculous. Last weekend, a Team 7-ish workout involved, it was called Moving Day, where we just moved a bunch of heavy stuff. And so one of those heavy things included a 150-pound sandbag for me. And so it was doable. I have to technique the crap out of it because I'm not that strong. But obviously, when I woke up the next day, my lower back was kind of spicy. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then on Monday, my back was really spicy. I'm like, dude, this is okay. It's the quarterly visit of the lower back pain fairy, which is fine. So I figured I was just going to do some body weight stuff. And then while I was in the gym, I was like, hey, I'm already planning this Saturday, actually, to go. I want to run the Navy Bridge with the homie Josh Hawkins, shout out. And we already planned all that. So I was like, well, let me just see how it feels to run. So I went for like a 400-meter run and then did some box jumps after that. I'm like, oh, it's not that bad. I was running around the building at Revival Fitness. And then eventually, I felt my lower back and it felt kind of weird. I was like, no, just be cool. I was jogging. I wasn't really running. I was jogging. And then all of a sudden my left calf just kind of goes, I feel like a sharp pain in there. I'm like, that's not a cramp. Like, I don't know what that is. More like a strain. And so I was very, very frustrated. Went into the gym, still finished a workout, did some ski or whatever it is. And I was talking to Kim, one of the best physical therapists in the game. And I told her what was going on. She's like, I was like, yeah, I just hurt my lower left calf. She's like, what side is your lower back pain? Is it on the right hand side? I was like, yeah. She's like, yeah, you were overcompensating for your. I was like, oh, I hate it when you have scientific reason. I just want a new calf and a new lower back, but she didn't have any of those on hand. So, regardless, there's definitely some pain going on right now. So we're gonna manage that, and I think that's also pointing some signs towards some decisions I had to make, just because, and I'll talk about that at the end of the episode. But yeah, definitely gonna be some getting through the pain, managing it, trying to be smarter Gabe as opposed to younger Gabe, just kind of training through stuff, but trying to be smart about the whole thing. So this week, what I want to talk about is I'm already starting to do some transition out from my current job. And so I'm doing the onboarding of the new Deputy DJ 3-4 and just kind of passing off and doing turnover with her to make sure and setting her up for success. So one of the things that my boss charged me with, he wants me to write down parting thoughts. And so if I had one more year left at JFHQ-DODIN, what would I want to do? So I sort of have some ideas on that. But I started thinking about, and I still think this is too strong of a word. I may or may not put it in the actual episode title. The word is legacy. And what I mean by that is exactly like, what kind of imprint did I have on this organization, on this team while I worked here? And what are other things you're going to be thinking about when they associate time with Lieutenant Colonel Villa at JFHQ-DODIN? What did that mean to people? So I came up with, hold on, I'm reaching over. I got to see my notes. I did come up with 3 things because, again, you guys already know I tend to do things in 3s. And so I'm actually going to put these notes into my parting thoughts when I give it to my boss right before I leave. But I want to share it here with you and just kind of so you to think about it as leaders in the Air Force in your community. What kind of impression are you leaving on the people you're fortunate enough to work with, I should say. So the first one is surround yourself with teammates that are working towards mutual goals. And so I do think that there is an idea of, especially as at operational headquarters, it is a huge team sport. The kind of the authorities and some of the responsibilities we have as an operational headquarters, we have to work with all the service components, and we have to understand their pros and cons and some of the things they're doing in order to try and make and synchronize, organize, and direct efforts. And so it's a team sport, bottom line. But also, it's obviously going to be a much better tour, and you're going to feel better about making progress if you can surround yourself with like-minded individuals who want to work towards mutual goals. One thing I think about, and you can go to constantelevation.co for the normal episode notes for this. One of the things I wrote is, where is it? A great leader will seek to build strong relationships that create big T team wins, not small t team wins at the expense of others. And I really do believe that. There's too many equities there where people, and I can sense it when people are really just trying to advance themselves or their own agenda, potentially at the expense of other goals. And I just choose not to surround myself with those kind of people. I do think that you can kind of drown out negative voices with positive voices if you work together as a team. And so those kind of things of just surrounding yourself with the right kind of team players, because it's going to continue to be a team sport. The other reason why it has to be a team sport is because you're never going to have all your resources. You're never going to have all of the money or the manning or the time in order to do the responsibilities charged to you. So the only way you can actually make any measured progress is to work together as a team. And I do believe, I was just talking to Benjamin about this the other day ago. He still has some interest in joining the military, and I told him military is a huge team sport. That's all it is. Your individual performance does have an impact, but it must be integrated into the larger team sport. So kind of interesting to have those conversations with my son. Item number 2, tell a compelling story that everyone can clearly follow along with and understand their role within. I think that's especially in a highly technical organization as ours. There's a lot of people who can kind of nerd out and talk about ones and zeros, and that's their comfort zone, and then that's all they want to talk about. Spoiler, we work with people. That's what I lead people. I don't lead machines. And so the idea of how do you tell those stories? How do you make sure everybody is on the same sheet of music? That we always use those analogies. And so how do you make sure all the musicians in the orchestra know their part within the composition of a song? If you're going to play like a recital or something like that, everybody should know the timing and tempo, and each part is going to be the sum is going to be greater than the individual parts. And so that idea of just making sure, but you have to let people know that. Part of that is understanding them as a person and kind of communicating to them, hey, you realize why your job on this team is very, very important. Spend the time. A good leader is going to spend that time to make sure that person understands their role, or potentially you work on sharpening that role, getting rid of stuff that's unnecessary, and then only focusing on the most value-added items. So those are the kind of pieces that and if that person now understands that they're being engaged by their leadership and they have a voice within the conversation, that gives them more buy-in. That gives them more energy and want to kind of contribute to the mission, and that's going to end up building a much stronger team. And so I always found my job as a division chief for J34 for a long time is trying to bring and communicate both up, down, and laterally as far as what are the ideas and goals we're trying to do. And if I'm doing a poor job of communicating that, that's my fault. I have to figure out and understand, read the audience, and make sure that I can get them to quickly understand, and then I plant that seed in their head. That way they believe in what we're doing, and then we kind of move together forward. So you have to be able to sell it. That's that compelling story. Know how to communicate to senior officers, to enlisted technical contractors, and senior enlisted folks. You can't just rely on one communication method to rule them all. You have to tailor them accordingly. But if you do it right, you're actually going to have a much better chance for success as a team. Finally, number 3 is create your own opportunities. So that part of my story, if you are paying attention to the beginning of Constant Elevation, is when I got here, I was actually I was selected to come here as a chief of operations. So it was a shift worker, right? I ended up being the chief of operations on the floor. And I first rolled into that role. I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure I should not be doing this. This feels more akin to like what a major should be doing, but this is okay. I'm just going to be a good teammate. And then finally found out that a bunch of the Air Force officers were going to start retiring or PCSing or whatever. And I was like, hey, is there a gap in this division chief job? I was like, yeah. I'm like, hey, so sir, I could probably do it. I'm saying, I can do this. And I started kind of convince leadership that this is going to be a good idea. My immediate chain of command, my not supervisor, but the JDOC director was not a fan of that because she had her own kind of goals that she needed to manage with all the teams. And I was like, we have enough people. You have to look at the bigger picture. You have enough people. This can work. Also, look at my career. This is going to help me out as well. And so I fought to get that division chief job. And through the entire 3 years here, I've held that job a couple times because I've been replaced by a colonel, and then that colonel left, and then I come back to the job. And so I do hope I had to fight for those. I had to let my street cred and my experience and my hard work kind of speak for itself. And I was very, very happy to be told at the end of the very last year of my tour here that I was going to stay on as a J34 division chief. And so sometimes you just kind of create your own opportunities. Sometimes that's not accepting the status quo. It's not just listening to like, well, we're just going to have to go like this. It is what it is. No, it's not. I'm going to keep on talking, and I'm going to make and will my way to a situation that can not only benefit myself, but actually benefit the team at large. And I wasn't trying to fight for the position selfishly, that's what I want to say. What I'm trying to do is I have skill sets that can be brought to bear. I can actually help the team at large. And luckily, I have lots of leaders that I have to thank for this entire tour that set me up for success for here to earn my promotion as a colonel. I mean, but I had to fight. I fight and recognize those opportunities and fought for them. And I think that's the kind of attitude I want I want other people to work around with, that share that same kind of mentality, because we understand that no isn't necessarily the final answer. We will figure out a way to try to make the best for what we have available, and for as much as possible our parties involved. If the situation is right, let's go ahead and give that person a chance to make sure they get to lead or earn that chance as they go along the way. And so I'm very, very thankful for that opportunity for my tour here. So those are the three things I'm thinking about as far as my, again, legacy is a strong word, final impressions, or whatever you want to call it, as far as what I hope that people, if I was going to give, that's also going to be served as advice, what I would give to a new teammate. And so I'm giving this to the Deputy DJ34 and some of the incoming officers as they come to join the team this summer. And I'm already moving on and thinking about the next job. And part of that is I just have a lot of stuff going on my plate. We're dealing with the move, getting Lana ready to go to college, Benjamin closing out high school, and then the wifey and I working on some things. There's definitely just I have other priorities I need to kind of focus on. And so that's leading my decision to make this the final episode of season 5 of Constant Elevation podcast. Crazy when I think about it, right? This is episode 109. So I've made over 100 episodes of video and content and all that kind of stuff of just like, wow, this is kind of cool. It was an experience and challenge to myself to do a podcast. I very much enjoy it, but I got other stuff right now. Like, everything you see behind me, I have to break down. I have to actually put away. I have to break down my Voltron. I got to hang up this poster because Gina's already starting to fill up the holes in the walls and painting them and stuff like that. And then I have to make some decisions on which books I'm going to keep and not keep. Spoiler, I'm keeping all of them. But the idea of just, I got to move on. It's not our first PCS, and I have to break down this camera equipment, and I got to put it all away. I do have the plan on coming back for another season of Constant Elevation once I get settled and the family gets settled in Virginia. There's a lot of stuff going on through the month of August. I do plan on maybe releasing things on my website, constantelevation.co, maybe just in written form or something like that. It's just not going to be the normal podcast content that you're used to. And so, but it's going to exist in perpetuity because thank you, Internet. So you can always go to my YouTube channel, like and subscribe, but just understand that nothing else is going to get published anytime soon after this episode. So maybe don't subscribe because eventually I will push some stuff out. But I really want to thank everybody for joining me on this adventure. This was just a challenge. Shout out to Ski Dobson for challenging me to create a podcast, and I stuck through it for as long as I've had the opportunity to kind of talk about stuff. So team, thank you again for everything you've done for me. Everybody kind of listening and reaching out and just kind of recognizing hopefully all the good stuff that I've done, and you may be learning from the stupid shit that I do. But this has been fun, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter, and I got a lot of stuff to work on, and I'm looking forward to sharing my leadership lessons with everybody. Stay true to yourself. Be an authentic leader. We need those kind of people in our community in the Air Force, and we're not going to get better unless you actually start showing your true colors. So that being said, team, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you later. Peace.